Hello, everyone. I'm just popping on here for a YouTube live. I have not been live on YouTube before, so this will be interesting to see how it goes. Anyway, I wanted to pop on and answer a couple questions. I think I've been prompted to do this from a couple of comments and feedback over on LinkedIn, and also to do with a new lovely customer who purchased my book, Awkward is the New Brave. Ready? Ta-da! This is a book here if you're looking for something to read. Um, so I wanted to kind of answer a few questions around why I think bravery is important, and I guess tell you guys a little bit about my journey if anyone starts to catch this live. So if you do jump on, make sure you say hi, ask a question. I don't even know how the streaming works in YouTube land. This is just new and I'm playing. Anyway, I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day to do with a lady who had lost her son to suicide. So this is kind of like part one of my story. The 12th of January next year will mark 19, oh gosh, 19 years. 19 years? 19 years, I think, since. No, more than that. 29 years. I might need to work out the maths on this. Since my mum passed away. So she died, I was thinking I was, like, in my 30s, but I'm not, I'm in my 40s. So it'll be, like, 28, 29 years next year. So in 2024, it will be 30 years since she passed away. Anyway, this lady was talking about what happens with grief and do you, so she asked me some questions. Did I delay my grieving process? And grief is something that's really interesting. So it can come through loss of identity, it can come through loss of a loved one, loss of your job or your career or your business, or um, even a dream that you may have had that maybe it feels like it may be passing you by. So grief, I think we tend to associate with losing people, and that is where it has a really big impact on us. But it can be losing other things that are important to us too. So just kind of hold that thought. And anyway, I kind of responded around her comments, how she said that they'd her son and some of his friends, like her surviving son, kind of didn't really talk about things for a while. They held on this silent part. And I said, I can relate to that. That's kind of what I did when my mum took her life. I'm fine with talking about any of these things that happened a long time ago. For me, I've healed from it. I'm all good with it. But I think for the whole context of bravery, it may help in terms of why I'm passionate about what I'm passionate about, and why I love seeing people live life as much as they can and understand that we go through changes at different points in time. So anyway, I responded and said, yes, I actually did the same thing. My my family, there's no way to sugarcoat it, was a complete mess when this happened. So even though my mum had suffered from depression, from like severe depression, like clinical depression, from when I was about 11 years old, and she'd been hospitalised on and off, and didn't really have the resources to be the mother that I needed. So I would take on certain roles, I guess, in terms of as a carer or as a parent in my family, even when I didn't have the skills to do so. So when she died, I didn't focus on my own grief. I delayed it and I focused more on the, like, doing all the things that I did. And over time I started to in hindsight, I started to resent those things because I was called to pick out coffins and pick out makeup and pick out clothing and, things you don't really imagine doing when you're 19 years old. So I was responding to her to say, yeah, like, yes, it can be delayed. And she said, like, did anyone reach out? And there was an auntie who reached out. Hey, Jack, how are you? So there was an auntie who reached out around things at that point in time, but it was more for my sister who was in severe denial, and that's even, I think, a tricky thing. So over time, there is a short video where I talk about this. Over time, I lost my father to cancer and my sister to cancer as well. So by the time I was 34, not even 34 years old, oh no, 34 years old, I'd lost three important family members and like not grandparents. So my mum, my dad, and my older sister. So they had all passed away. And I still stuck with this, being brave, like being strong kind of thing, and being resilient. And didn't really understand how much it impacted me until I started approaching the same age that my sister was when she died, and it really kind of hit me. So I'd woken up in January 2018 crying, partly like it's coming up to anniversaries of deaths and everything, but also I thought that maybe I had become so strong that I didn't know how to be soft anymore. So I was concerned that maybe my humanity had started to switch off. Not that I didn't care about people or anything like that. I have a lot of compassion for people, and my work has always been around, like in entrepreneur life anyway, not in business life. My work has always been around helping women start businesses and do things on their term. So I would say I had business bravery, and even in my corporate career, I had business bravery in terms of going after jobs that I wanted to do and doing fun things, and really, really being brave in those ways. But I wasn't really like I had thrown myself as a single mum into work and business so much that I was forgetting how to be brave in a different way. So I knew I wanted to teach my kids what love to look like. And spoiler alert, happy ending, got married last year, which was really nice. Oh, it was amazing, really nice. Oh, no, not last year, this year. Gosh, I'm getting my years mixed up. Um, so I wanted to be brave in different ways, which is why I set out to kind of redefine brave. And, I do believe that words have power. I do believe that you can speak things into existence. And quite often, when people talk about manifesting or anything, they tend to think that it's always in the positive, right? Oh, I'm going to manifest like $1 million. Yay. And tell me what experiences you've had with like seeing this happen in terms of people thinking this. But we can manifest things the other way too. So if we're too focused on lack, for example, we can get into like I've wrote one of my very first blogs I ever wrote. I wrote about like the lack hole. So we can fall into a lack hole accidentally and get into this particular space. So I do believe in God. I just want to put that out there. Whatever you believe in, I totally respect that because above all, I believe in freedom of choice and free will. So just putting that out there. But I do believe that we can co-create, or I believe that. But I also think that what you believe is what you receive in your reality. So if you believe that the power of words is a lot of hogwash, then of course it's not going to work. If you believe that you can um, speak good words and really focus on the energy and the feeling with the words and speak them in a truthful way for you and start out with what's the smallest version or that smallest step that you can do, then it becomes powerful to move forward. So I'm just going to see if Jackie is still there. There, Jack. So anyway, so I think that with the power of words like that, it's important to redefine brave. And how do you want to be brave? Now, it has for me, it has boundaries about it because I would get people saying, "Oh, does that like you're going to go jump off buildings and go bungee jumping or do this and that?" And almost like you'll have people who take it to the extreme or who'll question you and say, "Actually, I don't think you're being brave anymore because you're not speaking up." Whereas bravery is really owning who you are and sticking with your standards. So sometimes speaking up is the right thing to do, and sometimes being silent is the right thing to do. So you've got to choose the brave that works for you, and that resonates with you. I think that's really important. Is that finding the words and the bravery that resonates for you, whether it's being adventurous or starting a business or writing your book or going and doing public speaking, whatever it is. I think work out what that resonating bravery looks like for you and hold it. So set those boundaries so that other people aren't swaying you and calling you a chicken or just being silly. And kind of going, you know what, saying no is brave and saying yes is brave. And this is how I'm going to say yes and say no. And that's it. So that's kind of how my whole how to be brave started and got going, and why I think it's important to be conscious of the words that you use. And I've had this habit of setting a word of the year each year, probably for about 7 years, I think. I think I've done it for most of, like, when I was in single mum season, I did it for most of the year. So sometimes my word would be determined or joy, and then it became brave and or abundance. So next year, I feel the call to return to the word brave. I also want the word health, but health in different areas. So relationships, financially, spiritually, um, mentally, and emotionally. I think that's important. But it may be that this is what brave looks like. So it's around, yes, I definitely want the health side, but brave for me looks like doing things in this way to bring about these things. So that's kind of how it all got started, and why I think bravery is important, because sometimes if you think that you're trying to avoid something, you can acquire something else. So for me, it was about avoiding depression and avoiding the outcomes of my family members. And there's a video that I've posted in here on that. And then you can end up acquiring other things. So yes, I'm a strong person, but I almost didn't know how to be vulnerable anymore. And then what I do know, from when you start to shift, I guess, your own personal brand and become more of a vulnerable person, some people don't know how to deal with that. So it's like, "Oh, I thought you were such and such," and then you start to switch and you're like, "Actually, I need help with these things." So some people don't know how to deal with that. That's okay. That's just their personal skill set for where they're at, and it's not a reflection on you as a person if you ever experience this as you go on your own journey. Um, so that's kind of where it's at in terms of being brave, and why I think it's important, and why I love the Behaving Bravely program, because um, after I wrote the book, I got a ton of questions on: how did you get to forgiveness? How did you lose all the weight? How did you meet your well, now husband? So how do you do all of those things in terms of, really living this joyful life? And then there's the flip side, which I've gone through this year, is how did you actually, like, what did I learn? And I've learned, like, hormones and brain health will trump um, will trump mindset. So be conscious of those things as you go through. So always learn about yourself, your body, listen to your body, listen to the words that you speak over yourself, listen to the people that you're surrounding yourself with as well, so that you have, like, a good group of brave besties, and Jack is one of mine. So that's probably it for me. I feel like I could go into babble area. But if you happen to watch the replay of this video and you've got questions around bravery or creating transformation, because I do have a postgrad in change management. I don't have, like, a Wheatie box degree or anything like that. I studied for it. I love change in business and in life, and businesses and people go through seasons, just like everything else on this planet, where we are seasonal beings and seasonal creatures. So it's around how you navigate the highs and the lows, and especially, like, in business, it's not a straight line. There will come a time, depending on how long you've been in, where you go through dips. So it's peaks and valleys in life, peaks and valleys. The important thing is to make sure that you don't take your peaks for granted, and don't sit in your valley and think that you can't walk back up that hill, because you can. So anyway, I'm going to wrap out. I would love to know, how do you want to be brave in 2022? If you've got any questions around bravery or creating change, please drop them down below, because that will help me to make sure that I'm putting out good content in for the next year. So being on YouTube is something that I have marked as my bravery goal, I guess, and really figuring out YouTube. I like the fact that it's analytic. There's a lot of analytics in there. It's definitely resonating with me a lot more than other platforms. So that's about it. Anyway, I'm going to go grab some lunch, do some domestic type stuff, and really think about what 2022 looks like for me. I know that learning to play the guitar is on there, so definitely having fun is in the pipelines. I would love to, seeing how finances go and do, like, a personal styling course. It's something that I've always wanted to do, because I think that, how we show up really helps in terms of how we feel about ourselves, and how we're projecting out onto the world too. So if you've got like a list of things or a word on how you want to be brave next year or what you want to feel next year, drop a comment below and I will come back and chat to you later on. So I'll catch you all later. Bye.